I'm proud to be British, but at the same time, more so, I'm proud to be black.
I've always identified myself as proudly British and proudly West African. All my life I've straddled the two cultures. You can be both, you don't have to be exclusively one thing. And perhaps it's because I've become a dad for the first time, but recently I've been thinking a lot about my identity. What does it mean to be black and British?
Being cold, that's what it means.
What are my own personal connections with a country like Sierra Leone, a country where my mother's from? And what part should all of that play in my son's life?
See Snoop Dogg? He's got some good tunes. I'll play you some when you're a bit older.
Sometimes instead of potato, I might say potato. And sometimes instead of potato, I can say potato. See, you will find me there, somewhere between black British and a British Sierra Leonean.
The Krios are people who were resettled by the British.
The Krios are the group many of my family descend from. This exhibition tells their story.
Bonds Island was one of the key places where it was like a holding place for all the, slaves.
The Krios are an ethnic group descended from the first settlers sent to Sierra Leone by the British, including London's Black Poor and those freed from illegal slave ships after the abolition of the slave trade in 1807.
You then had African Americans who helped the British. They fought on the side of the British during the American Revolutionary War. The British promised freedom if they fought on their side. But by far, the most number comes from people called liberated Africans. These were people on their way to slavery when the slave trade was abolished.
My mother told me about how her grandmother's mother was on a ship from the New World traveling back to West Africa that was being escorted by the British. She remembers being the only person that didn't have any chains on her or any ropes on her, and she's going around this boat giving the other people water.
Sierra Leone has strong ties with Britain throughout its history, and it's where my grandfather founded the country's first school for blind children, for which, amongst other endeavours, he was knighted by the Queen in 1971.
Close ties with Britain was a source of pride for many Sierra Leoneans, and those strong links saw many, my family included, settle in the UK after decolonisation. Today, their children and their grandchildren are British, and government's data reveals there are almost 2 million black Britons living in the UK, each with their own unique experience of what it means to be black and British.
Somewhere between a Londoner and a Britonian. Somewhere between Waterloo Junction and Waterloo Station. Buying cassava bread before I up on the London Eye. See, you'll find me there.
Sis, how do you identify yourself?
This is my sister and my cousins. Growing up, our parents made sure our West African heritage was a big part of our lives.
When I was young, I felt more African than I did British. I think as I've grown up and I'm older, I've found a balance.
Being black British, I think if you break it down into 3 aspects. If you look at culture,
the stories that your parents tell you, the food that you eat,
cow food and the shopping,
the music that they listen to, going to family gatherings, it's something that just runs through you.
I'm proud to be a Sierra Leonean, but Sierra Leonean and English inside.
it's down to responsibility for my actions, the way I carry myself, the way I treat my family.
We know how we've benefited by being able to carry on our culture, tradition, that sense of identity. And I think there's a responsibility, Mazzy's point, there is a responsibility for us to pass it on to the next generation.
White people, they do their culture. And Friday, chips and fish. So, our food on Friday, we have fish and akara and plantain.
And then lastly, I would say it's about pride.
I first say I am African, I'm West African. I happen to be born, for me, in the US and have been educated in the UK. All of which I am fiercely proud of. But for me, I think my heartland is always back home.
When people ask me, oh, so Twiggy, where are you from? I'm like, oh yeah, I come from Sierra Leone. I think that's the first day we landed.
Twiggy went to Sierra Leone for the first time last year and wrote about her experience for Vogue magazine.
Of course, I'm British, but I say, yeah, Sierra Leone. Oh, when's the last time you went back? Nothing to say. I say, oh, I've never actually been before. And they're like, oh, why didn't you go back? Me and a friend of mine, we just came to the resolution that we need to go back. Me near the Sierra Leonean hut. We need to be able to say to people that we know that we've actually been to Sierra Leone before and to actually know a lot more about ourselves. The sky looks absolutely amazing.
It's stunning.
Yeah, it really is.
The last year saw 400,000 people leave the UK to build a new life abroad. Among them, many young black Britons returning to the countries their parents and grandparents left years ago. They say there are opportunities in Africa that don't exist here.
It was January 19th, 2019. I went to Heathrow, got on a plane and never turned back.
Africa has been in Sierra Leone for a year now. She sees it as a country of opportunity.
Moving back to Sierra Leone was kind of like in the moment thing. I studied migration and development, very long degree, so I'll just break it down to migration and development. And the market for that in the UK was just non-existent. So it just made more sense to go and work in the place that most of my study and, passions were rooted in. People are, starting to realize that, that there's more out there than the West.
For a community, for a progress, for a free time.
So I'd be interested to get your thoughts on what a country like Sierra Leone would have to offer our generation.
Yvonne lived in the UK for years before moving back to Sierra Leone and becoming the mayor of Freetown. She's also my cousin.
This, our home, has been deprived of so much. Colonialism created its own level of weakening of our infrastructure, our societies, our norms, our institutions. I'm painting this picture, Gamal, because I want you to reframe that question. Africa is not going to offer you. We need to come and take it and make it.
Somewhere between safe and sound and barely sounding safe. Somewhere between two homes yet still feeling homeless. Spending too long in one home renders it foreign, but you'll find me there.
We need talented people from here to go there to help the economy, to help the society, to help everything else. I think it's a positive step, but it's not necessarily the right step for everyone.
After spending my 3 months in Sierra Leone, I realized the importance of my Britishness. As much as we don't want to discuss it, the country is still run by neo-colonialism. The lifestyle is completely different to what I'm accustomed to in the UK, so I think I'll find it very hard adapting. But one thing that really I can get used to, internet access. I know it's a first world problem, but being a filmmaker, I need to be glued to the online world. I will achieve a lot more for Sierra Leone being in the diaspora than actually being in Sierra Leone. So you'll find me there in search of a cotton tree in the center of London.
It is quite different living in Sierra Leone compared to London. I think I just felt this sense of just peace. We landed and we just heard everyone speaking Krios and we turned to each other and we're like, we're actually here.
Somewhere speaking English with an African accent.
One of the things that struck me is that everybody sort of looked like me. It was the same colour.
Yeah.
Like you weren't one out of a handful of people.
It just felt very safe and I was just like, oh, so this is what it feels like to not feel like an other.
Or something I Krios talk with in its accent.
"2020 has seen the COVID-19 pandemic and the Black Lives Matter protests really shine a light on some of the inequalities and disparities that exist in society. It's led to young people calling for change. They're in a hurry to make that happen now.
The momentum needs to keep on going, it needs to keep on going, and we definitely need more black people in higher positions.
It's the covert racism that, for me, is still very much intertwined in our day-to-day. And that's the bit that I would love to see sort of uncovered and spoken about and addressed.
We've got to be really, really conscious, and that means trying to find talented young black kids, helping them to see that they could be anything, they can do anything.
I've benefited from both worlds. I'm British and have been grounded in West African culture. Ultimately, it's not up to me to decide how my son identifies himself, but it is important that he's proud and mindful of his heritage. The rest I'll leave to him. He can make his own choices.
You like the sound of that? You hear it? Yeah. Let me put that in your mouth, man. Ow. It's that one. Makes a slightly different sound, doesn't it?